Hey, this is Ticking Gray Bomb, Refined Taste for Idiots. I'm Mace,
And I'm X. What up?
and we're following up our last episode with a recap of the Antiquorum auction with the 12 watches that we took a look at. So I'm going to hand it over to Mex here, and let's get rolling.
Yeah, so we'll kick off with a wristwatch check. So I'm wearing it's a Nomos Weltzeit World Time watch here. It's a limited edition Vempi, one of 150, I believe. Really nice here. The unique piece is it has in the what is that, 3 o'clock position, where it has the kind of GMT wheel, right? The dual time wheel, if you will. It has specifically in New York that you'll set as your base time. And then on the World Cities wheel, it has Fifth Avenue, which is where Wembley is located. So it's a nice kind of piece connecting us to back to New York. Nice kind of display case back. Really, Nomos is kind of budget luxury, excellent quality, and I really like wearing this watch. Mace?
Yeah, so I've got my Zero West Spitfire, pretty basic pilot's watch. Also limited edition. I believe it's less than 100. I can't remember if it's 8 or 100. And then in the back, it's got this commemorative dial. It's it's made from the engine of a Spitfire that went down during World War II, that they were able to reclaim and melt down and create these discs to add to the watches in this series. So
I think that's a cool story. I mean, obviously IWC has their Spitfire line, but it's not at all ingrained in kind of, or has a direct connection with the history. So I think it's a cool story for sure.
yeah, Zero West has kind of an interesting story too. They like to do this, celebrate achievements. They do kind of racing inspired and airplane inspired watches. A lot of times trying to get artifacts incorporated into the watch themselves. Not every watch that they make has that, but you can, and they're continuing to make these special editions as kind of their bread and butter.
Yeah. Well, good. So the last time we connected, we previewed the Antiquorum Geneva auction. I don't know if you guys saw, but Revolution also had a nice piece with the CEO, I believe the CEO, one of the lead auctioneers at Antiquorum, kind of previewing his favorite pieces. So I think we can jump into it just in terms of tracking how the 6 lots, or the 12 lots rather, 6 each that we flagged, how they fared over the weekend. So I'll kick off as well there. I guess we'll go chronologically or in order from first to last lot. And so on Saturday, they had an afternoon session. And the first lot that I had wanted to preview was the Omega limited edition Soyuz edition. So this is interesting, right? Very unique timepiece, very kind of limited run from 1975. But this watch did not meet its reserve. Okay, so I think it got up to about, I think the reserve was probably somewhere around 35K Swiss francs. And I think it got up to about 28 and petered out. So the interesting thing there is that passed. That I guess would still be up for sale either in a subsequent auction at a reduced price, or if a private buyer or a buyer wants to do a private sale, they can reach out to Antiquorum to purchase that watch.
So the next watch chronologically is the JAEGER Barracuda, the Master Marine. This watch was estimated to go between 5 and 10. Mex was quite a bit higher on this watch than I was, and it sold right at 5,500. Right inside the estimate. I think it was a great specimen for kind of that era diver's watch, and you don't see a whole lot of them from JLC. So to me, I think it's about right. All in, I think, close to $7,000, kind of a lot for that era of dive watches, but so be it.
Yeah.
The next one that, chronologically is the Lot 61. It was MB&F. This one, I particularly spent a lot of time going on and on, blustering about how I thought this would go for a lot higher than the estimate. The estimate was between 2 and 4 Swiss francs, and it went for 6,000. So I in particular speculated that I could see it going 8, 9, 10, perhaps even quite a bit higher because of the differential between this um, more budget friendly watch than their typical collection. So it was quite a bit. While it went more than the estimate, not as high as I thought it would go.
So this is not just the worst house on a nice block. This is the crack house on a nice block.
The outhouse, yeah.
Yes.
The next watch that was part of our Dirty Dozen was the Lot 67, the Panerai. It was a PAM 48. It was estimated to go between 2 and 4,000 Swiss francs, and it went for 3,800. Not really a surprise there. Probably about what it's worth. All right, Max. Next up is you at Lot 89.
Yep. So Lot 89, correct, is the Vacheron Constantin vintage watch, reference 4218. So I was interested in this watch because of first of all, the overall great condition, the applied numerals on the dial, the lugs. I mean, this is a really nice vintage watch, right? A 36 mil, very kind of wearable, but perhaps the estimate was just a little too high. The estimate was 6 to 10, and this didn't meet the reserve, so it was passed. It was not sold.
These kind of older vintage dress watches that were up for auction. I think you had your pick if you were interested in that style watch, and this may have fallen victim to that, to the amount of watches in that.
Yeah, I mean, and you look, like you said, Mace, earlier, when you add in the 25% buyer's premium, this is not, I mean, even at 6, right? And you're getting away somewhere between $7,500 and $8,000, depending on the exchange rate at the time. It's not a bargain piece, right? I mean, look, it's a gold watch and all that, and that's great. But again, I think we have a lot of choices in that price range, and maybe a lot of folks just weren't sufficiently inspired by that.
Right. All right, I think the next 2 lots here is 147
Okay, so that's
and 148.
yeah, we're heading into 147. So so the next 2 lots are APs. Okay, and I want to make a general comment. I think Federico has been out there, rightly so, and others saying that there's a lot of weakness among some of the buzz brands, the brands that have been so strong lately. And I think we touched on this also in the last video. But AP did not have a good showing in this auction. The first of these 2 lots, lot 147, was the Kasparov, with an estimate between 30 and 40 K Swiss francs. This was passed. This did not meet reserve. Okay. And not surprising, because I think the activity on these, if you will, vintage Royal Oaks have eroded a little bit, right? So 30, I mean, clearly 30K plus the buyer's premium, which would get you, somewhere around, just shy of 10, is too rich. I think it's too rich for this model into the current market. Okay. The second lot is lot 148, which I was creaming over. This beautiful Yves Klein perpetual calendar Royal Oak. And so, I think this sold for 165K Swiss francs before buyer's premium. I think this is a great buy. The estimate was somewhere between 150 and 250, wide range. But I think this is, again, I've seen these Yves Klein dials in person, and they're just gorgeous. And this is a highly complicated haute horlogerie watch. So I think, again, not for Mase and Mase, but I think for the collector who bought this, this was a great buy at 165K.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a lot about them in the preview. As did we lot 217, the Omega Alaska project. The estimate was between 5 and 8.
Mase was very skeptical at that estimate number.
Yeah, and luckily this one proved to be, or at least my instincts proved to be more correct than on my MB&F one. But this, I woke up in the middle of the night to follow this one. I woke up at 4, kind of was
Grumpy
watching
Mase.
it, and yeah, it was barely keeping my eyes open, Mase. And this, I think, started. So the estimate was between 5 and 8. I think when this lot rolled around, I think it started at 16 and sold for 18. So, all in, you're up in over $22,000. And I think we talked about this kind of selling or listing on Chrono 24 for in that range. So it's probably a fair all-in price compared to the market. And I think the next, anything you want to say about that one? Because it's still a great collectible watch. And
100%. But I remember what we were talking about in that commentary was that the market knows, right? The market will suss out when things are inefficiently priced, right? And that's a perfect example of that. Yep. Your instincts were spot on, Mase. And again, I think it started at 16 because people had placed bids up to that point in the pre-auction.
Exactly.
Right. So everyone was saying this estimate is ridiculous. I'm willing to pony up double the high end.
Right.
And then the lucky winner got it at 18K francs before the premium.
Yeah, this and in the next lot that we talked about, lot 230,
right.
You kind of mentioned them in kind of a lot of watches, and I don't mean kind of like many of them, but there were 4 watches in a row, similar stylings. 3 of them met the same fate, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so this was, Vulcain, Vulcain has a name in luxury, in the vintage watch category. But, when we talk about modern watches, when we talk about complicated watches, as I mentioned, Vulcain is not really the first watch you think about. And so they had this limited edition, or we'll call it a special edition, for the Olympics. And these 4 lots all went up for sale at the same time. And yeah, like you said, Mase, only one of them sold, right? 3. And some would say the estimates were pedestrian, right? The low end of the estimate was $5,000 for a complicated white gold watch, right? And only one of them found a buyer at that very minimum threshold of 5K. So interesting, again, interesting of note as unique watches, but in terms of horological value, I think, again, the market confirmed probably low horological value.
Right. Yeah, of the 4, I'm surprised it wasn't the one that you selected. The last one, the one that went was the Aviator, had plane on the dial, but so be it.
Yeah, it was interesting. Again, I would have thought that the World Time would have had more interest. I don't know, maybe the Olympic theme, combined with World Time. Very, very, again, I think they're unique watches. They're aesthetically, they're of note. But again, clearly, and again, it goes to show you have to, someone spent a lot of money on these 4 watches, okay, and they're not getting their return, right? So when we talk about value, I think it also underlines, be mindful of brands, because that's key to determining what your return on investment or the underlying value of your investment will be.
The next lot that we talked about in the last go round is the lot 358. It's a JAEGER LECOULTRE. that was retailed through Hermes. And this, I think, went exactly had the same statistics as the Panerai. The estimate was between 2,000 and 4,000 Swiss francs, and we went for 3,800. Probably no surprise, I would say.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot to say there, really.
No, I mean it's true, but I think your instinct was good in picking this one, Mace, because I think that so these tri-compacts models, right, the annual calendar, if you will, but triple date models are popular nowadays. This is a gold watch. I think this is a great deal at 3,800.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 36 mil, right? I mean, it's not a 33, 34 millimeter watch. So I think this is a good buy at this level.
Yep.
Next one up is lot 406. This is a vintage Patek. This sold for 8,500 Swiss francs, which I think is a very fair price when we look at the estimate of somewhere between 8 and 12K. Again, still rich when you look at spending 10 or 11 grand on a vintage watch without a lot of let's say panache. This is a time only watch, right? That was marked by Houseman. So you have that retailer stamp, which makes it a little bit unique. But again, aesthetically, is it doing a whole lot for me? I mean, I don't know. It's a pretty watch. It'd be a nice watch. I would like to wear it. I mean, but again, would it fit in my collection for 10 or 11 grand? I think there'd probably be other things I'd rather do with that money than buy another vintage Patek for me, right? But again, I don't think this is a bad buy at this level.
The next lot and the last lot is 413. This is the Patek World Time that we discussed. The estimate was between 27 and 37. I thought that was light. Saw some listings between I think 50 and 60. And this sold for 40, right? So this went a little bit above the high estimate. And when you add in the buyer's premium, gets you right to kind of that where the low end of the listings that I saw.
Right.
So I mean, another one that kind of just matched, kind of expectation and slightly above the high estimate, but not really a big surprise here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, I think it was a good pick on your part, Mace. It's funny when you look at these lots here. So we have about lot 411 to let's say lot, I don't know, 420, which is some complicated, nicer, Patek models. They were kind of soft, right? This was the strongest one. The one that you picked was by far the strongest one, right? If we look at the annual calendar 414, it sold just above low end. The retrograde, I think that's perpetual calendar lot 415, that was passed. It didn't meet reserve, which was probably somewhere between 35 and 40 grand. There was an annual calendar, actually one that I like a lot, the 5205G, not in this color scheme, but this one sold very much towards the low end of the range. These were really hot, these watches, 6 or 7 months ago. Okay. And then there was another World Time Mace, lot 419, that sold for less than, it's a platinum, sold for less than your lot, the lot 413, right? Sold at 36, well below the high end of the estimate. So, it's interesting to see kind of where this, and I think if we looked at it from a macro level, right, it's hard to discern trends. I think the vintage piece, the vintage side has been somewhat robust. And I wonder if it's for the same reasons that we talked about before, which is that there's a lot of folks feel that there's not a whole lot of, the air is out of the balloon on the modern side, the modern sports side, certainly, and maybe there's no value there. And so folks, the collectors, maybe go back to vintage to pick through some lots of value and importance, right? So I don't know, something to think about there, Miss.
Yeah, and I think also availability, right, is you can't really get a Rolex, can't I remember being somewhere where there was an AP boutique store. There was nothing in there except for a security guard. It was middle of the day, and there was, during open, their operating hours, and nothing in there aside from security guard. I mean, that was also 6 months ago or so. So, um,
But that's not changing, Mace. I
yeah,
think that's. I mean, I'm not going to say it's never going to change. It's going to change, but that's going to lag, right? That's not changing now. And I think we're going to see that. We're going to see empty boutiques for several more months, at least.
yeah. So those are the 12 watches. I think we had some that passed, some that fell right in between the estimates, the high and the low. Then some that went a little bit above, and one that kind of went quite a bit above. Kind of a poo-poo platter of results there. And I, I'm not sure if you have any last thoughts there, Max.
Look, I mean, I'm curious. I'd be curious to see how. And again, I think we're probably going to see this maybe in social media, maybe somewhere else. In terms of kind of what Antiquorum's debrief of this was, what the postmortem will be. I think they're going to be happy with this result. Because they sold some of the big pieces that they wanted to sell. But again, I mean, I think that it's going to be a tough time for anyone selling watches, even auction houses, because I think sellers there's a disconnect, right? Sellers have an inordinately high expectation of what they should get from selling their watches, right? And again, as we talked about in the context of some of these ADs not being able to stock up, even though we see the air being let out of the balloon in the secondary market, it is going to take some time to work through. So. Right. Yeah, we have auction season will continue. Okay, I mean, Phillips had their Geneva auction also last weekend. That's not something we previewed, but I'm sure you can find content, again, on Revolutionary Watch or other outlets. And again, other auction houses will continue to have auctions here up until I'd say probably up until early December. So these are things we're going to continue to watch. If this has been valuable for you, I mean, like and subscribe. Give us feedback if this is valuable for you. If not, feel free to suggest other content for us.
I think with that, we'll just sign off, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next time.
Bye bye.
Out of time. Bye bye.